Superman is the most important comic book character in the history of the industry. He's the apex. He's the highest selling American comic book hero in history. And we have a lot of very bad versions of Superman, specifically once Brian Michael Bendis took over as the Superman writer, aged up John Kent, did a lot of bad stuff with that series. We just haven't gotten a whole lot of good Superman, although I will say Action Comics right now from Philip Kennedy Johnson is good, but it's a very different take on Superman. But we finally do have a good live action version of Superman. This is the best live action we've seen since probably Christopher Reeves as Superman back in the day. Much better than Henry Cavill, better than Dean Cain, better than all that stuff. And it's from the CW of all places. And here to talk to me about that is my good friend, Josh. How you doing, Josh?
I am doing well. I'm really excited to talk about this. And I know right away, I know there's going to be people freaking out in the comments being like, what about Tom Welling from Smallville? It was fine, but so was
he was never really Superman, though.
Right. And then, look, I will say this. I think Henry Cavill is great. I would love to see him do more Superman. He just hasn't had a good scripted Superman. So there's two factors here. We're not just saying it's an actor thing. There have been good actors, but this is a combo of a good actor and a good story.
Whoever produces and writes Superman and Lois gets the character of Superman and actually gets the relationship with Lois. It's the best presentation of their relationship as well. It's better than the Christopher Reeve, Margot Kidder stuff. It's like they're really a team. They're really working in unison. And I'm really surprised because when I saw the trailers, Tyler Hoechlin does not look like Clark Kent to me. It was kind of a turn-off. I was like, I don't think I'm going to watch that. That guy doesn't look like he's Clark Kent. But I finally decided to watch it with my 6-year-old. He likes, superheroes. He specifically likes Superman. And we got in there and watched it. And within, 10 minutes of the first episode, I was like, yeah, this guy gets Clark Kent. He gets Superman. Like, he gets the subtle nature of the character. He's soft-spoken until he needs to speak with a big voice. It's like even his mannerisms feel like Clark Kent.
Absolutely. So going back to when he even debuted on Supergirl, I was super cautious to see how they handled Superman, because at this point, the CW was really starting to mishandle their superheroes. Everything was like that teen drama angst. We have to have inner turmoil within the group or the family. Like, what kind of like crazy melodrama can we infuse here? So I wasn't excited. And I feel like they had kind of misunderstood or misrepresented some of the characters they had. So when he popped up on Supergirl, I was hoping for the best, but wasn't expecting the best. And I thought they did a good job of him. And then he made a few appearances after that, and the character wasn't written as well. So when this series was announced, I didn't have much faith. I thought it was another example or going to be another case of, these creators phoning it in. But I think somewhere at some point said, hey, this is the most important superhero. This is the best superhero. In a lot of ways, I know people will debate that, but we have to handle this with care. And thank God they did. I avoided watching this show for a little bit because I didn't have faith in it. And then I had people that I trust that were like, no. This is excellent. It is the best live action Superman that we have ever gotten. Please watch it. And I did. And I would say the first 5 minutes of Superman and Lois, I had chill bumps. I felt inspired. And I knew, I was like, okay, this is going to be good.
Yeah, there's so many cool things because they're really taking a lot of the ideas that Peter J. Tomasi and Patrick Gleason and Dan Jurgens were incorporating into Superman during DC Rebirth, where, Superman and Lois have a kid. Obviously in the comics, it's John Kent. In the show, they have twin kids. I believe they're 14, John and Jordan. Yep. And I love the way that Superman is a hero. Mm-hmm. He's also a father, and he's trying to balance the fact that I have a responsibility to the world. I have a responsibility to mankind. I've been given this gift, and I have to give back, and I have to protect people. But I also have been given the responsibility and the gift of fatherhood, and I have to look after these boys, what's right for them. He ends up moving them out of Metropolis, out to Smallville, trying to kind of reconnect with his roots, maybe be the father that his father was to him when he was discovering his powers, because at the beginning, they're not sure if either one of them will develop powers. And I was like, my goodness, look at all these missed opportunities from DC Comics by aging John Kent up from 9 to 17. And what's interesting is they do encompass the two sides of Clark Kent. You have the John Kent character that's kind of, your all-American kid, good looking, he's the quarterback of the football team. He's outgoing. People like him, the face of Superman. But then you got the brother Jordan, and he's kind of like the weird outsider alien character that feels like he doesn't belong and he has insecurities and stuff like this. So you've had like these two parts of Clark Kent, Superman manifested in these two human beings, and he's trying to do the best that he can while saving the world. I was like, my goodness, this is compelling stuff. This is how you write really gripping stories about Superman and put him in peril to where he has to make decisions, and sometimes, if you take care of your kid, maybe somebody dies. Like that's a tough situation for Superman, and it's how you write good stories.
Absolutely. And I think other series have tried to do this with different heroes and tried to add this element, but they don't do with much nuance. And this, they infuse a lot of nuance here. And they really try to take it from a realistic standpoint of, what would a superhero, if this really happened, if this really was their stakes, what would this look like, and how would they react, and how would they handle it realistically? Let's
and if
really
you had 14 boys that eventually figured out he was Superman, what kind of trouble would they get themselves into?
Absolutely. and just like, and one of the things that I'll say is it didn't feel like this series was just like written like flying off the cuff. Like you can tell they put a lot of thought, not just into Superman or Lois, but even the two boys, John and Jordan, and what their arcs would be and how they would play into this. You have arcs with Lana Lane and her husband. Everything is so calculated and done so well, and it's a really tight story. And it just lets them kind of just go through the motions. But it seems like the one thing, and this is what really makes the story so good, is it feels like they came in with a mission of, we live in this society now where so many people think the only way to make Superman interesting is to deconstruct him. And, what does that look like? And what if he's challenged? And what if he becomes evil or angry? And this story is like, no. I think in this day and age, when so many people are saying Superman's boring or doesn't matter, we need to ask the question, why? And that's a theme of the show, and it's played heavily, and it's played from different angles, both from protagonists and antagonists. Why trust Superman? Why does Superman trust humans? And it just lays that out, and it gives you just answer after answer. It just kind of like just drives this theme in of why, while showing you why. And it's humanity, and the fact that humanity is good and can be good. It can be bad as well, but it's something that you have to work for. And it shows these two characters actively working, not only as heroes in their respects, but Clark and Lois actively working to be good people for society. And it just, I get chill bumps thinking about it, but it's done so well that it's inspiring, not only from a Superman aspect, but just from a human aspect. Like I said, the first 5 minutes of the show, they lay this foundation and they drive it home, and each episode just reminds you, this is why Superman exists and this is why he's important.
One of the important things that happens within the Superman universe, obviously, is his relationship with Lois Lane. Even if you go back to that original Christopher Reeves, Margot Kidder, Superman and Lois, you're like, why would he fall in love with her? She doesn't treat him very well. And why would she fall in love with him? He's kind of a geek. Like, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. They didn't have a lot of chemistry. Like, they were fine, but it wasn't great. You go to the Henry Cavill, Amy Adams, like, no chemistry whatsoever.
At all.
The Dean Cain, Terry Hatcher, back in the days, Superman and Lois stuff, I guess they were fine, but it's the relationship chemistry between Tyler Hoechlin and Bitsie Tulloch, is the actress that plays Lois. Like, it feels like they love each other. It feels like they're in it together, raising the boys, and she understands the sacrifice that Superman has to make, and she also understands the sacrifice that she has to make so that the rest of the world can be safe. And she knows that she has to do something herself to make things better. And she's always actively trying to do things to make everyone's lives better. But she's not just a complete ball buster, which you've seen Lois Lane portrayed as in the past. And she comes off as very powerful, a very strong partner for Clark Kent, and you can see why they want to be together, because their relationship complements each other, and they're better parents for the two boys because they're together. Yes, you get superheroics. Yes, you get supervillains and all that stuff, but those two together really are an empowering couple. And it's like, this is how you do it, to where neither one really overshadows the other, and they both come off as extremely compelling.
Yeah, one of the things too is I keep mentioning the first 5 minutes of the first season and feeling, peace with the show. And it was more so peace with how they were, representing Superman. But a huge aspect was going to be how they depicted Lois Lane. And you're right. A lot of times there's this idea now that if you're going to have a strong woman, she has to be a ball buster and that's all she can be. And I was afraid that's the route they were going to go. But while there is a power to Lois, there's also a grace to Lois, and there's an intelligence. She understands, picking and choosing her battles. She understands the importance of when to stay quiet and when to speak. Because if you're always going out there and always ball busting, people are just going to be like, well, here's the person that's got another thing to say. They're that loud voice that's always going to chime in. But because she's strategic in when she says and does things, people make a point to listen. And she's established herself as a foundational character with some power, political power, mostly because of her reporting. One of the reasons this works is there's trust in Clark and Lois. And that's something you tend to not see with relationships, especially in superhero series or shows right now, but they trust each other so incredibly well. And that's not to say that they just go along with everything or they don't have their problems. They do. There are times they don't see eye to eye, but they handle it like adults who have been in a relationship for years that understand how the other person works. And it fleshes together so well. And, we talked about how well Tyler plays Superman, but I think Bitsie Tulloch is the standout here for acting. Like, she steps into this role and it feels like Lois Lane. As much as he feels like Superman, she delivers. And, Tyler Hoechlin, his performance is it has to be understated to a degree because of him as Clark Kent, but also, when he's not in public, when he's not around people that don't know, even when he's performing with Bitsie Tulloch and they're just having their scenes together, when they each know everything there is to know, he's still slightly understated. And I like the way they do that because he's got this power, but she has this power as well. And they recognize that in each other. And it's that mutual respect, that mutual trust. And it allows so much play for the two actors and the characters. It's so good. It's so good.
I also like the boys as well. I like Jonathan much more than I like Jordan. I think Jordan's kind of annoying, but I think that's kind of by design. He's socially awkward. He kind of feels like he's gotten the rotten hand of the two. Obviously, everyone likes Jonathan. No one likes Jordan. He's got to go through therapy and stuff like this. But there's a couple of moments that really show that, Jonathan has learned a lot from his dad. There's a point where Jordan's going to hurt somebody very badly, and he kind of steps in there and he gets hurt very badly. He might lose his football career over it. And I was like, it really just kind of shows you the character that he is and what he's learned from Superman. And you can imagine, Clark Kent's son being like that. I was like, yeah, I kind of like this. I'm willing to take one for my brother so he doesn't get in trouble. And, I'll be the one that kind of eats it on that one. I think they do it pretty well. Obviously, it is CW. So there is going to be teen angst specifically thrown in with those two characters and the Lana Lang family. I don't particularly like any of those characters for the most part. Mostly they're just to put in plot inks and stuff like that. Yeah. So you do get your CW elements, but as long as you can get over that, there's a lot of good stuff there.
Absolutely. And I will say, as far as Jonathan and Jordan are concerned, they start off pretty stereotypical. And I thought it was going to just expand on those stereotypes, but it doesn't. The moment that you think, oh, this is turning into a stereotypical CW show because of their arcs, it definitely shifts gears, and it's like, no, like the same way we're writing Clark and Lois, we're going to give these guys that nuance and attention as well. And because there's moments where both of them like show pettiness and then grow from it. And they do it in different ways and they help each other out. And I can't remember a superhero show handling brothers the way it handles these two. And it reminds me of my brothers. There's definitely times where we disagree. We're very different people, but we have an unconditional love for one another and we will always be there to support each other. And these two just manage to see when the other is down and they're what a brother should be. They're right there to be like, hey, like I've got this, chill. And not even handling conflicts, just personal things. But just when you think one's getting super petty, he does something that shows his maturity and his growth. When the other's doing something petty, he does something to show his maturity and growth. And it's reflected in a way of like, this is what good parenting does. And this is how good of a parent Superman and Lois have been, that they're teaching them these things.
Yeah, there's all kinds of conflict. Obviously, once they learn that their dad is Superman and he's been spying on them and listening to them, their entire lives, they rightfully so get upset. So you get some stuff like that in there. There are a couple things I don't like about the show. There are some elements of Superman lore that they've incorporated in here, and I understand you're working on a limited budget. Steel is a really cool character. They are using him to demonstrate something else because he's part of the multiverse. I don't like that portrayal of Steel. I think John Henry Irons deserved better. The Eradicator's in here, kind of. I guess he's the Eradicator at some point, but it's certainly not the Eradicator from the comic books. That is a really weird character with some funky sunglasses. I can understand why they had to adjust a little bit. So there's a few things, if you're really into Superman and you can't take any deviations from real Superman, that might throw you off. But it is a CW show. You're going to have to get their interpretations of things. And I wish they could do Steel better. First, you got the movie that was awful, and now this weird portrayal that doesn't really do the character justice.
I wouldn't say the portrayal's awful. I think it's fine, but they definitely take liberties with Steel. I mean, even from a character and his foundation and how it comes about, they absolutely take some liberties there. I ended up liking the character overall by the end, but they go a weird roundabout way of having him incorporated.
He's a swerve at the beginning.
Absolutely.
It really kind of throws it all off.
Agreed. It almost feels like they were going a certain direction, and then like while writing and filming, they're like, actually, you know what we should do? And they tried to course correct and adjust. So it definitely feels that way. As for Eradicator, I will say the core elements of what the Eradicator represents, you definitely get that here. I may or may not have screamed at the TV, "Where's the blackface?" But I'm kidding. Those are some of the liberties they definitely make to not piss people off.
There's a lot of stuff to like in here. As far as I'm concerned, this is the best on-screen portrayal that you're going to see of Superman. Mm-hmm. I think the original Superman probably came out maybe just a little bit after I was born. So, hey, I guess it came out when I was a baby. So this is the other really good interpretation besides Christopher Reeves, but it's totally worth your time. I don't like the CW. There have been some good things. I like the first 3 seasons of Flash. I like the first 4 seasons of Smallville. Yeah, but they tend to fall off. That's one of the reasons I was hesitant to kind of dive into Superman and Lois, because I've seen bad things happen so many times. But I'm so glad I went and checked it out, because I love Superman. And this is a true interpretation of Superman. It's a true interpretation of Lois Lane and what they represent in the DC universe. And I think the addition of the kids really just pantses DC Comics and says, what were you thinking? There is so much opportunity for storytelling here.
Absolutely. Completely agree.
DC Comics have had a lot of bad ideas on what to do with Superman within the comic book universe. Specifically, not that long ago, Grant Morrison was talking about how they wanted to make Superman alt-right. And he actually had to talk Dan Didio and the brain trust at DC Comics out of it. They have done so much bad as Superman, but it actually could have been worse. You're not going to believe the details in this one. Definitely check it out.